And we are live on the Venture to Victory podcast. I'm your host, Tim Tonella, CEO of Matchstar Venture Search, and we've got a real surprise for you today. We've got Mike Gold in the house. He is the chairman and CEO of Intermedia in Mountain View, California. Say hello, Mike. Nice to have you here.
Hello.
All right, Mike, I'm doing something a little different. If you've ever watched my podcast, I always wear kind of black shirts that have an inspirational saying. In honor of the San Jose Quakes and Intermedia, I'm actually wearing my Intermedia San Jose Quakes jersey, and they are killer. I have to tell you, this is the ultimate icebreaker. If I am on an airplane, if I'm doing a Zoom call with somebody I don't know, it's unbelievable. If I wear this shirt, the first thing people want to do is talk to me about soccer. I literally had no idea soccer was such a huge thing in the United States, huh? Who would have thunk, as they say?
And I will say that you're probably not mistaken for a member of the soccer team because you're way too big to be a San Jose. Probably a couple inches on the tallest player on the team.
Well, they say the screen makes you look 10 pounds bigger. I'm actually only 5'2", 120 pounds, but you know me, I'm around 6'3", 220. So I do appreciate the compliment. I want to tee up a little intro for you, Mike, about Intermedia. So Mike is almost 14 years with Intermedia as the president, CEO, and chairman. And for those that aren't familiar with Intermedia, they are a market leader, what's called the UCAS space, Unified Communications as a Service. And in layman's terms, my terms, what Intermedia really does, they provide cloud-based communications, services like email, voice and video, messaging, chat, and all kinds of collaboration tools they could get under one roof. So you have one dashboard you can go to for all of these services. They make it very, very simple. They have terrific customer support that you can get 24/7. And their focus is primarily on SMB, small to medium-sized businesses. I mean, unbelievably, you guys have over 140,000 businesses as clients and over 7,500 channel partners. And we'll talk about that a little later because that didn't happen by accident. That was a strategy that took a decade to pull off, and it's really kind of coming into its own. Now, Intermedia has won every type of best award, it seems like. PC Magazine's overall business over IP award, US News' best phone system, Forbes' best unified communications as a service, USA Today's best voice over IP, and many of the best great places to work. So congratulations, Mike. That's pretty cool. And the company's really grown. They're doing about $400 million in revenue, and they're growing faster than most of the public companies in their space, which is absolutely incredible. And then I think about 6 years ago, you guys were going down what we would call in banking the dual track, looking to do either an IPO or an acquisition concurrently, as I recall. And you ended up selling the company. Some call it a sale. Some people say it's a private equity recap, but it was sold to the large private equity firm out of Chicago, Madison Dearborn Partners. And I'd love to touch a little bit later on, Mike, about that experience, having been in the venture world and then also spent a decade in the private equity space. So Mike has been the CEO of 4 tech companies of all different sizes and funding levels. All of them have ended in successful exits to strategic buyers, with Intermedia being his current stint for 14 years. He is a Midwesterner, studied electrical engineering at the University of Illinois. And back in that day, there was no computer science degree, really. It was electrical engineering. And then he went shortly after that to Stanford to get his MBA. So, Mike, thank you for participating in the Venture Victory podcast. We're totally excited.
Nice introduction. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks. You know, people are always interested in origin stories. And so I'm not going to get to the origin story about how you grew up as a little kid and all those types of things, but I would, because you have spent so much of your career at Intermedia, and it is a fascinating growth story. It'd be fun to kind of hear how you got to Intermedia. I mean, I've known you for a long time. Our firm has worked with you guys for over a decade on lots of different searches. We've helped build out part of your core team. So a lot of familiarity with your background. But before Intermedia, I remember you started a company called Zlago when you're out in Washington, D.C. And I know you put your heart and soul, almost all your resources. You literally are an example of the quintessential entrepreneur that laid it all on the line, as they say, and took the big risk. And that ended up not only transitioning into your path to Intermedia, but it also laid the foundation for part of the core strategy that allowed you to build Intermedia into this market leader that it is today. So I'd love to hear how you got there, the story about Zlago, and if you could share where you were at building Zlago when the Intermedia opportunity came to you.
Great. Thanks, Tim. I'll step back even a little bit further. So I was at a company where we were setting up businesses' first websites. And back in the mid 90s, companies didn't have websites. The internet was just coming out. And so we started doing that. Then they need a place to host. So we started doing that. Then I joined a company that just raised venture funding and ran corp dev and M&A at that company. And we were setting up data centers and, again, web enabling applications for businesses. Then we went public and got acquired by Quest, and I ran internet products at Quest. And a couple of the things I did there were, one, voice over IP, two, setting up a data center business, setting up a hosted applications business. And one of those hosted applications was Microsoft Exchange email. I'll come back to that in a minute because it's all part of the journey. Then I left Quest, and one of the things I did after that was I ran an Israeli-founded software company called Sphera that was providing a platform for telcos primarily and other firms to provide hosted services. And it was mostly just websites and, to a little lesser extent, email. And so the companies would buy our software, they would install it on their equipment, and they would run it. And then they would sell to their small, medium business customers these applications. The struggle there was we couldn't get the telcos to market it and sell it, we felt, fast enough and in the right manner. So I tried to turn that business into a provider of the applications themselves. I couldn't get the venture capital firm where we had, I think, 5 or 6 different VC firms who had invested in the various rounds, all on my board. Couldn't get them all to agree to change strategies and turn our software business into a software as a service business. We sold that business, and then I left and I started, after a year, Zlago with the idea of doing exactly what I just described, providing a platform of software as a service applications, core IT applications like email, like phone, like meetings, like security, like backup, like file sharing, and providing all these services to small, medium businesses. And furthermore, the plan was to enable the IT firms that most businesses used as their IT department or to supplement their IT departments to provide them with that platform. And so that's what Zlago was. And while working on Zlago, there was an opportunity to buy and this is where my history kind of comes in again, to buy a email hoster called Intermedia. And so we kind of brought those businesses.
I remember years ago, you had called me one night and you said, hey, how much money would you pay per month if you could back up your computer remotely to like the cloud? I mean, it really goes back. And I remember thinking, that's an interesting concept. Like, it sounds kind of cool. But you think about how, today you can't imagine anything not backed up to the cloud. You can't imagine all these services not being backed up, not being in one place. It's just funny how fast things change. And when you look backwards, what seems so obvious today was really a hard sell in many cases back in the beginning. I guess automobiles were a tough sale too when you had a bunch of horses, but that's the nature of all technology. Very cool story. So one of the themes I see, like, knowing from your background, you worked for companies that were venture backed, even as a CEO. You had board members that were traditional venture capitalists, and then you were thrust into this situation with Oak Hill, which was, a PE firm, and certainly Madison Dearborn, which everybody knows is a major player in the space. When I deal with a lot of venture backed CEOs, they don't know a lot about private equity. Sometimes they feel like private equity is this dark cloud, like there's money there, but are you going to sell? And they're going to come in and stifle your growth, and they're going to just take a chisel to every cost. You obviously have had a different experience. You've worked with 2 big private equity firms over, close to 14 years. I know you've had great relationships with your board. What have been some of the differences that you experienced between venture-backed boards and private equity-backed boards, some of the benefits of the PE firm to help you get to that next level is a really large company?
Great question. And they're serving different purposes. For the most part, venture capital firms are going for earlier stage businesses who are, depending on what stage the VC comes in, whether the product needs to be proven, figure out its market scale, and oftentimes not worrying about making money in those early stages. It's more about building out the product and gaining the traction and gaining the growth and bringing in different investors at each round at higher valuations. The venture capital firms helping with strategy, helping to figure all those things out, helping to recruit a team. PE firms typically, not exclusively, but typically only invest in businesses that are making money, that are generating cash flow. Most, again, not all, but most PE firms invest in businesses where they can actually put leverage on it, meaning they can borrow money. So a PE firm will write an equity check, and then the PE firm will have their lending partners who will come in and lend additional money to give leverage,
Right.
which actually, assuming everything works out, gives greater returns. And so you can't put debt, sometimes you can, but typically you can't put debt on a business unless it's generating cash flow. So the idea of investing a PE investor is just a very different stage of company. And so those are the big differences. In terms of running, I highlighted one of the challenges that I had running a venture-backed company is that I had multiple VC, each at different, they invested through different funds. And, if a fund is towards the end of its investment cycle, they may not be there to put in additional money or to support a new strategy versus a different fund that's in earlier stages. PE firms typically come in and they buy a company and they like to be in and out in, 5 or 6 years. Obviously, sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's earlier, but there's a formulaic approach there for many of the PE firms, very different for venture capital. And I highlight one of the challenges with the PE firm, both times, first with Oak Hill and then with Madison Dearborn, there's only one investor.
Yeah.
That was it. With the venture-backed companies, you typically have a number of VC firms who are on your board, each having an opinion and trying to influence you as a CEO have to get alignment with these various parties. So it's just a different.
So you have to definitely pick your investor wisely when there's only one. That can make either for a wonderful marriage or a bad marriage. I know it's like the venture companies, I totally get it. Like they start off with companies that maybe just they lead or participate in Series A rounds and they move to the next one. So which each subsequent round, you're getting not only different investors, but different types of investors. It sounds to me like with the PE firm, because it's going to be a long time, let's say at least 5, 6 years or 7 years, like you said, and it is a single investor, it sounds to me like it's much more of a marriage or a partnership, that relationship. Am I reading that right? Is that your experience at Intermedia?
Oh, that's good. And the famous saying, the 7-year itch. Well, if a PE firm's in a deal at 7 years, they start to get that itch, and it's time.
Right. So how long has it been with Madison Dearborn?
But fortunately for me, it has been 7 years. And of course, the typical approach for Madison Dearborn is to sell. But, our business is transforming at an incredibly successful rate. And we're creating tremendous value every year that we stay. And, the market hasn't been that conducive right now in terms of an M&A market over the last year. So things are starting to get better, but during the end of the normal cycle, it hasn't been there. So we're now in a much stronger position as a company. As you so nicely highlighted in the introduction, Intermedia is growing faster than every single public company UCAS provider who we compete with. Ring Central, Zoom, 8, Crescendo, smaller one, and others. On the contact center side, 5.9, we're growing faster than all.
So besides yourself and all the people we've worked with you to help place there, why is that?
So it's fully the amazing Matt Star firm and your ability to help me build this phenomenal team.
Yes. So besides that part of it, which is publicly acknowledged, why are you growing at a faster speed than all these other companies that obviously public companies have tremendous resources? Not only do they have equity they can issue in the public markets, they can access the debt markets. There's a lot of different things they can do. Why is it that you're growing so much quicker than the rest of them?
So it's a couple things. And by the way, I was joking, but it was really only half joking. I mean, the reality is if you have a really good team who knows a business, who's smart, who's passionate, collaborating with each other, and you have a good plan, then you're going to have success. Your organization helped us in some key roles. And so we have a great team. The plan that we have is also critical. And our plan is, and what we've been executing on, is to be really good at a set of products with unified communications as a service and contact center as a service as being the two primary ones, also the fastest growing ones and representing the majority of our business revenues and profits. But and this is where we're more, where we're different, where we're unique from the competitors who I mentioned, is we are primarily selling through partners,
Mhm.
not directly to the SMBs themselves.
Yeah.
We have a small direct business, but our partners are not only responsible for the sales and marketing, but they also do the onboarding, the support, and the billing. They're going to in many cases, they're going to their existing customers who they years ago sold phone systems and contact center systems. And these partners, these IT firms, those managed service providers are VARs, they not only sold them and installed them, but they also managed them today from. And now as the world is moving to the cloud and whereas there's this, you know, huge demand for AI and other amazing features, mobility, better security, you can really only get that with the more modern cloud solutions. And so we're arming them with a solution that they can put their brand on and sell as their own. And so our ability to acquire customers is significantly more efficient than our competitors. So we spend less to acquire a customer than our competitors. We have a very high success rate. We have happier customers. Our partners are happy with us. And our product is fantastic. So for all these reasons and more is why we're winning in the market and growing faster and
Yeah.
growing more.
And in full disclosure, we are a customer of Intermedia through one of your VARs. So thank you very much. That's been going on for a long time. Look, to your credit though, Mike, this didn't happen by accident. I remember when we first started working with you, you came in with the plan to switch from a direct model to a channel partner model, and of course, you just don't land on that huge number. What was the number of was it? It's over 7,000, right?
Yes, 7,500 partners.
I mean, that doesn't happen. It's not like you put the word out and they all sign up. I mean, that's something that takes a process over many years. It takes tremendous support because now it's not a small direct sales force. It's 7,000 entities that are your sales force, and that has to be managed and managed very well. So I'm sure that's a big part of the success story, which really has to do with proper execution. And I think I'll tell you too, from having worked with you guys for so long, the team at Intermedia, it really does feel like a family. It's very collegial. People are very kind and nice, and you get the sense that they really enjoy working together. And I think that's part of the success too. Yeah, I know you have a very high retention rate with key employees, and that stems from the top. So that's really great. Pivoting it a little to something fun, like the San Jose Quakes, I feel like a company has truly arrived when they are the official sponsor of a city's major sports franchise. And so love to hear a little bit of why you guys got involved with the Quakes and what that experience has been like outside of the fun of the jerseys and going to games and all of those neat things.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. We were the jersey sponsor for the San Jose Earthquakes for five years, starting in the season beginning in 2020, spring 2020. And we just finished our fifth year last month as the season is now winding down. the teams are in the playoffs now. Unfortunately, Quakes did not make, but they did make the playoffs for part of the time while we were the sponsor. It was pretty exciting. We had home games at PayPal Park in San Jose, and then each of the away games. And the cool thing about a jersey sponsor is your name is being worn on the jersey, played in every city that the team plays on. If you're a gamer and you play FIFA, the Intermedia is on the FIFA game.
Incredible.
The team does a huge social media effort and highlighting players and more. And, we're on that. The team uses our product to do ticket sales, to communicate with their fan base and more. That's another great benefit of it. And probably this, one of the biggest impacts to our business was that we use the games to host our partners. So we sell through partners, and we were able to invite partners and give them a specially unique experience that they couldn't get, if we were just, take them and sit in normal seats and watch a game. You come into a suite, you get to wear the jersey, you get to meet some former star players who will watch the game with you. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And the Quakes are just a fantastic organization, and the players are wonderful, and it's a family-friendly type of team. And so the association, if you're going to take your company and your brand and associate it with another organization like a sports team, it's important to do one that's just, very solid and shares your values.
Well, it's certainly a lot of fun. I think one of the cool things about PayPal Park is that the boxes, and I know you use that for some of your partners, they're not high up like most stadiums. They're actually on the ground. And so you can literally step out of the box and you're, a couple seats down from the actual field. And so the players it's like you're actually in the game, in the middle of the game, which is a crazy experience. You're hearing the grunts, you're seeing the kicks, you're seeing we'll call them fake fouls, the acting work that goes into it. So what's it like? I'm sure being a corporate sponsor, you get to meet players. You don't always have that experience. What is it like to meet the players outside of the fact that they're actually kids when you get down to it? What was that like? And who's your favorite player on the Quakes?
I'm not going to pick a favorite player because, love them all. They're all fantastic, but there's one player, Chris Wondolowski. He's lovingly known by the major fan base as Wando. He's now retired, but he was a player during the majority of the time we were sponsoring the team. And he's the Major League Soccer's all-time leading scorer, not just for the Quakes, but for the entire league. And he was very supportive of our company, and has done some, like you and I are doing this discussion right now. He's done that with me for our partner base. And so that's been fantastic. So really good. And he's not the only one who does that. Shea Salinas and many of the other players have done such things.
That's great. For anyone listening to this pod who lives in the Bay Area, who's never gone to a Quakes game, it is awesome. The food is amazing. The stadium's incredible. I can't say they're quite as rowdy as Europe, but they've got a section where they're trying to rival it pretty well. And it is a lot of fun. So get out there and check it out.
You've been going to a game in Europe.
Well, Mike, I'd like to kind of finish off on an important question, because the thesis or the main theme for this podcast are looking at the entrepreneurial journeys from funding to exit, and kind of those challenges and that are along the way. Every entrepreneur I've ever talked to that's built a sizable business over a long period of time has dealt with extreme challenges, that they were issues that the company faced internally they had to deal with. Sometimes they're externalities, matters of timing, competitors. You have things like the pandemic that hit in, technological changes that you don't see coming out of left field. And as I've looked at your career, you have gone to the mat, bet everything, put all your chips in at some points of your life, and you had to push through that. I know you and your family had to have self-doubts. And so for all the entrepreneurs out there that are whatever stage they are in, and all their chips are in, and they are running into these big roadblocks, what are some things or some advice that you could give them for how to think about where they're at, and to help them prepare to get over that wall and make it to that next season of success?
That's a big question, and it's hardly a one size fits all question. So I'll take a stab at answering it in a way that might be helpful for some. So
Okay.
first off, in terms of starting a company and, as you say, betting it all, I wouldn't always recommend it because it's, the downside can be pretty bad if it doesn't work out. So if you're going to do something entrepreneurial, it's not for everybody, but for people who have a vision, have a dream to build something that they're leading or driving or creating. Of course, doing that in business can be a lot of fun, can really challenge you, push the boundaries of what you can possibly attain. Sometimes it can be very financially rewarding as well. It can be very fulfilling to create jobs and careers for people to help people develop in their career and their life, and to serve customers and provide them with a product, a service, a solution that they couldn't have got anywhere else because you built something and provided this product, service, whatever it is that didn't exist before. And so for all those reasons and others, like that's some of what drives some entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure people can take what they want from that. I know that everybody's at a different stage, and it depends whether you have a family, whether you're single, whether you have any resources you're giving up. It is highly individualized. But I know that, like all entrepreneurs, you've had different paths that you've taken, and you did lay it all on the line and turn it into a huge success. So we're really pumped to see what's going to happen after that 7-year itch. Maybe you're an outlier. I mean, they say it's the 7-year itch on marriages, but both you and I have blown way through that over 20 and 30. So maybe you'll be an outlier with Intermedia. And as a Dearborn, we'll come back and say, Mike, we want another 7 years or an IPO.
The good news is the business is 8 times greater than when I first bought it with Oak Hill. And so we've grown it tremendously. And there's a big market opportunity that we're pursuing, and there's a lot more that we could do. And so I'm excited about that. And I'll give one more point on your entrepreneurial thing. When you're young, you don't have as much to lose. If you don't have a family, it's just you single, then, the downside is not as big, but oftentimes you don't know as much. And so but sometimes knowing too much prevents you from doing things.
Right.
So it's unclear when is the best time. If you wait when you're older, you know more, you have more connection, you're more seasoned, you can bring resources together more easily sometimes, but because you know so much, you may not take as big. So there's no real clear answer here.
No, I think
As
that,
we both know, many of the greatest entrepreneurs, the biggest, most successful companies all started when they were young.
yeah. And I think there's that old saying that part of the reason young people are successful is because they don't know what they don't know. And so they just go out and they do it. And sometimes it works out wonderful. So, hey, man, it's been an awesome chat we've had today. A lot of fun, I have to tell you, Mike. Love the smiles, love the fun stories. It's always fun to talk about sports and excitement around what I call victory. But victory doesn't happen overnight. It's been a long haul. I think 14 years at Intermedia, you've really built something special, and it didn't happen overnight. It took a strategy, execution, a commitment to good people. And that all starts from the top of the leadership. And so congrats. And thank you for participating in the Venture to Victory podcast.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Mike. And that's a wrap.
The Venture to Victory podcast is provided by MatchStar Venture Search. If you're interested in any of our open executive roles or need help sourcing world-class talent for your company, check out our website at matchstar.com.